The last thing I saw before I died was my sister's corn dog. I was lying on the hardwood floor of our shared apartment, my lungs seizing, my vision tunneling to a single point of light. The asthma attack had come on suddenly, triggered by the dust from the renovation the landlord had promised to finish months ago, and I had crawled across the floor to where my sister was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone. "Sabine," I wheezed. "My inhaler. It's empty. I need you to go downstairs. Pharmacy. 2 blocks. Please." Sabine looked up from her phone. Her expression was serene, beatific, the expression of someone who had transcended the petty urgencies of the material world. "Relax, Elara. Your body is just telling you to slow down. Have you tried meditating? I've been reading this incredible book about how stress is a social construct." "Sabine, I can't breathe. Please, I need you to go now." She sighed a long, put-upon exhalation and rose from the couch with the languid grace of a cat stretching in the sun. "Fine. But I want you to think about why you're so dependent on pharmaceuticals. Your body has an incredible capacity to heal itself if you just let it." She took my wallet from the counter. She took the $50 bill I had been saving for groceries, and she walked out the door. The pharmacy was 2 blocks away. The round trip should have taken 10 minutes, 15, if there was a line, 20, if she stopped for coffee. I lay on the floor, my chest heaving, my fingers clawing at the wooden planks, and I counted the seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5, 10, 20, 30. The world was narrowing to a dark tunnel, the edges of my vision crumbling like burnt paper. My thoughts were fragmenting, my prayers dissolving into a single, desperate plea. Asterisk, please. Please let her come back. Please let her hurry. Asterisk. Sabine returned an hour and 12 minutes later. She was holding a corn dog. "I got you something to eat," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "You know, low blood sugar can cause anxiety. Maybe that's what's really going on with your breathing. Also, I ran into this really interesting street musician on the way back. He was playing the most beautiful ambient music. Did I stop to listen for a while? Did I think it was good for my soul?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. The world was a distant hum, a fading echo, a light at the end of a tunnel that was closing fast. Sabine's face floated above me, her brow furrowing with mild concern. "Elara, are you even listening? I'm trying to share something meaningful with you. This is why you never grow. You're so resistant to new perspectives." She bit into the corn dog. She chewed slowly, deliberately, savoring the flavor. And I died on the hardwood floor, my lungs filled with nothing, while my sister finished her snack and wondered aloud why I was being so dramatic. The next thing I saw was my mother's face, contorted with fury, as she stood over my body. She had arrived 30 minutes too late, summoned by Sabine's panicked call. But her fury was not directed at the daughter, who had let me eat. IT was directed at me. She overcame her social anxiety to go downstairs. My mother shrieked, her finger trembling as she pointed at my corpse. She did something amazing. Why didn't you think to prepare a backup inhaler? Look what you've done to my precious baby. You've traumatized her. You've destroyed her. And Sabine, wrapped in her mother's arms, sobbed and was comforted, while my body grew cold on the floor. Then there was nothing, and then there was light. System initializing. Host detected. Elara Vance status. Deceased. Cause. Asphyxiation due to untreated asthma attack, compounded by medical neglect, activating karmic rebirth protocol. You have been wronged beyond mortal measure. You are granted 1 chance to return. Initiating temporal rewind. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the hardwood floor. My lungs were seizing. My vision was blurring. And Sabine was reaching for my wallet. The exact moment of my death. The exact moment of her choice. "Relax, Elara," she was saying, her voice dripping with that familiar, sanctimonious calm. "Your body is just telling you to slow down. I'll go get your inhaler. But I wanted to use this time to reflect on why you're so dependent on external solutions." Her hand closed around the $50 bill. She stood up. She walked toward the door. And I reached deep into the pocket of my jeans and felt the cool plastic cylinder that I had hidden there before the attack began. The backup inhaler, the one I had bought in secret 2 weeks ago after a nightmare about dying on this floor. The one I had never told Sabine about because she had lectured me for an hour about over-medicalization when she found my prescription receipt. I had my first life. I had forgotten I had it. By the time I remembered, my hands were too weak to reach it. Not this time. I pressed the inhaler to my lips and breathed. The medicine flooded my lungs, and the vice around my chest loosened. The tunnel vision receded. The world came back into focus. I sat up. I looked at the door Sabine had just walked through, and I began to plan. Sabine Vance, my younger sister, had been a fully committed follower of the soft life movement for 2 years, a fringe social media ideology that preached absolute withdrawal from stress, ambition, and responsibility under the therapeutic guise of protecting one's peace. She had been fired from 6 jobs in 18 months, each termination met with the same serene indifference. After the last one, a receptionist position at a dental office that had failed to respect her energy, she had come home with a Veni matcha latte and an unconcerned shrug. Hustle culture is toxic, she declared, settling onto our couch. Even if I do nothing, I'm worth more than a miserable corporate slave like you. I had tried to argue, I had tried to reason, and I had tried to explain that our rent was due, and our mother couldn't subsidize us forever. But every attempt at accountability was met with the same weaponized vocabulary of pseudotherapy. I was triggering her. I was violating her boundaries. I was projecting my internalized capitalism. And whenever I pressed too hard, our mother would swoop in like a avenging angel. Your sister is just protecting her peace and avoiding spiritual friction, Mom would snap. Why do you have to be so vicious and cynical? Sabine is a delicate soul. She's not built for the grind away you are. You should be supporting her journey, not attacking it. But now, in the quiet of the apartment after Sabine had left with my grocery money, I had a decision to make. I could confront her. I could demand change. I could try, once again, to make her understand, or I could accept the truth that my first death had taught me. Sabine would never change, and my mother would never hold her accountable. And the only person who could save me was myself. But that wasn't all I had learned. In the hours after my rebirth, fragments of information began to surface. Details I had missed in my first life. Secrets that had been hidden from me. The system that had brought me back was not just a mechanism of return, that IT was a repository of truth. And the truth it revealed was devastating. Evidence file number 0001 created. Subject: Celeste Vance. Systematic financial exploitation. Mother has been siphoning funds from the family trust established by your grandmother. Total diverted over 7 years. $1.30 million beneficiary. Sabine Vance. My mother, who had always claimed poverty when I asked for help with tuition, had been stealing from my inheritance to fund Sabine's lifestyle. The allowance Sabine received, the one Mom described as a small gift from savings, was actually a monthly transfer of $5,000 from a trust my grandmother had established for both of us equally. Evidence file number 0002 created. Subject: Sabine Vance theft. The $50 bill she takes every time you have an emergency goes directly into a cryptocurrency wallet. Current balance: $12,000. The corn dog, the hour-long delay, the street musician. It was all a performance. Sabine wasn't slow. She was strategic. She had been stealing from me for years, small amounts that I dismissed as carelessness, and she had been investing the proceeds while I worked myself to exhaustion. The soft life philosophy was a convenient cover for a predator. Evidence file number 0003 created. Subject: Sabine Vance. Previous incidents. Medical neglect is a pattern, not an isolated event. She has delayed or withheld assistance during asthma attacks on 5 separate occasions, always citing slow-living principles. Each delay lasted between 45 and 90 minutes. 5 times? MY's sister had let me nearly die 5 times, and I had forgiven her every single time. I had believed her apologies, accepted her explanations, internalized her criticisms of my dramatic reactions. I had been conditioned to accept her cruelty as wisdom. I didn't confront Sabine when she returned. I didn't mention the backup inhaler, and I let her keep the $50. And over the following months, I let her settle deeper into her soft life fantasy while I quietly documented every dollar, every betrayal, every damning fact the system fed me. Because what Sabine didn't know, what my mother didn't know, was that the family trust was not the only source of Vance's family wealth. Our grandmother had left behind a controlling interest in Vance Capital Management, a multi-billion-dollar asset management firm now run by her estranged sister, Margaret. And Margaret had been waiting for decades for the right heir. I reached out to my great-aunt in secret. A week later, a black car arrived to take me to meet her. Margaret Vance was 83 years old, silver-haired, with eyes like winter steel. She had built Vance Capital from a small investment office into a global powerhouse, and she had watched from a distance as my mother squandered my potential while coddling Sabine's delusions. Your grandmother would be ashamed of what your mother has done, she said. But you have the Vance fire type been waiting for you. What followed was a quiet corporate war. Margaret restructured the family trust, removing my mother's administrative access. She froze Sabine's monthly allowance. She initiated a forensic audit of my mother's financial management, and she named me as her successor, the heir to a fortune neither my mother nor my sister knew existed. The final blow came on a day of my choosing. I was now the acting CEO of Vance Capital, appointed by the board after Margaret's retirement, and the first item on my agenda was a full accounting of the family trust. My mother and sister were summoned to the firm's headquarters, not for a negotiation, but for an exposure. They arrived confused and resentful, Sabine clutching her usual matcha latte, my mother already composing her defense. This is absurd, my mother began as she settled into the chair across from me in the conference room. Whatever your great-aunt has told you, it's all lies. She's been trying to turn you against us for years. Sabine and I have done nothing wrong, or family supports each other. A dozen attorneys were seated at the table, documents spread before them. A representative from the state attorney general's office was present by a video link. I pressed a button, and the screens behind me came alive with evidence. The siphoned funds, the cryptocurrency wallet, the 5 documented asthma attacks where Sabine had deliberately withheld assistance. Celeste Vance, I said, my voice cold as January ice. You have been stealing from the Vance Family Trust for 7 years. You have diverted over $1.3 million to fund Sabine's lifestyle while telling me the trust was depleted. You have systematically favored one daughter over the other, to the point of criminal neglect. I turned to Sabine, who was staring at the screens, her matcha latte forgotten. And you. You've been documenting your slow-living philosophy on social media while stealing from your sister. You have allowed her to nearly die 5 times, always arriving with a corn dog or a smoothie or some other trivial purchase while she suffocated on the floor. You are not a delicate lamb. You are a predator, and your soft life experiment is over. Sabine's face went white. You can't talk to me like that. Mom, she can't talk to me like that. This is triggering me. This is emotional abuse. Our mother rose to her feet, her face contorted with fury. How dare you? Sabine is a fragile, precious soul. Everything I did was to protect her. Everything I took was for her well-being. You were always fine. You didn't need the money. You had your job, your independence. Sabine needed me. Sabine needed an inhaler. Sabine needed to call 911. Sabine needed to do 1,000 things she never did because she was too busy protecting her peace while I died. I slid a document across the conference table. The forensic audit is complete. The state attorney general has been notified. You have 30 days to repay the stolen funds or face criminal prosecution. The trust is being restructured under my control. Sabine's allowance is terminated, effective immediately. You can't do this. Sabine shrieked. I'll be homeless. I have nothing. I have no skills, no degree, no job. You have exactly what you earned. The soft life is over. Now you get to live the hard one. My mother tried one last time. Please, I'm your mother. We can work this out in private. Without all these strangers. Sabine will apologize that I'll make her apologize. Whatever you want. Just don't destroy this family. Don't become the villain. I looked at her. The woman who had raised me, who had pointed at my corpse and screamed that I had traumatized my sister by dying. This family was destroyed a long time ago, Mom. I just finally stopped pretending it wasn't. Third-party objective commentary by Dr. Helena Mirren, clinical psychologist and author of Weaponized Wellness, How Therapy Speak Enables Abuse. The Vance case is a textbook example of what I term therapeutic exploitation. Sabine Vance deployed the language of mental health, protecting my peace, avoiding friction, spiritual self-care, to systematically extract resources from her family while evading all accountability. This is not mental illness. IT is predation dressed in wellness jargon. The mother's role is equally instructive. Celeste Vance enabled Sabine's exploitation while pathologizing Alara's entirely reasonable demands for fairness and responsibility. Alara was framed as vicious and cynical for expecting her sister to hold a job or contribute to household expenses. This is gaslighting at a systemic level, perpetuated over decades. Alara's decision to stop engaging with Sabine's therapeutic language was the turning point. By refusing to accept the premise that accountability is abuse and boundaries are violence, she reclaimed the moral ground that her family had spent years undermining. The use of a forensic audit and legal documentation, rather than emotional appeals, was a deliberate strategy to operate within a framework her sister could not manipulate. The law does not recognize spiritual friction as a defense. IT recognizes facts, and the facts were damning. The most telling detail of the entire case is the backup inhaler. Alara had one all along. She had simply been gaslit into forgetting it. The work of recovery was not about finding new resources, but about reclaiming the resources she already possessed and had been trained to ignore. Sabine now lives in a studio apartment in a rundown part of town, working as a cashier at a grocery store chain. The soft life is gone, replaced by double shifts, aching feet, and the kind of bone-deep exhaustion she once mocked me for enduring. The cryptocurrency wallet was seized as part of the restitution order. The corn dog, it turns out, was not a sound long-term investment strategy. My mother was convicted of fraud and embezzlement. She served 18 months in a minimum security facility and now lives in a retirement community where no one knows her name. She writes me letters sometimes, asking for reconciliation. Did I archive them without reading? I run Vance Capital. I have expanded it into the largest woman-led investment firm in the country. I fund scholarships for first-generation students who are grinding through school while working 3 jobs, the ones who don't have the luxury of a soft life. And I keep a single corn dog wrapper, preserved in resin, on my desk, a reminder of what I survived. A reminder that the people who tell you to slow down are often the ones who benefit most from your exhaustion. The woman who died on the hardwood floor became the woman who burned the soft life to the ground. And the sister who called her a miserable corporate slave learned, too late, that slaves can become masters.